One of the areas that's really evolved in retail and consumer goods in recent years is this whole concept of direct-to-consumer. Whereas we've taken a model where most brands before looked for wholesale relationships with retailers to really distribute their products out to consumers. But what's evolved is that now those same brands are finding more and more opportunities to go direct to those consumers, whether they're doing that in digital channels through their own e-commerce, really having an ability to own that relationship with the customer, or whether they're opening their own stores. And sometimes the answer is both.
The D2C space has actually evolved quite a bit. Granted, there has been now over a decade of space and time for this industry to be moving, but there's a lot more fragmentation because it's been going on for such a long time at this point. You see some retailers entering this space in the brick and mortar world by just having ghost retailers and just having these kind of one-off flagship stores. You see some retailers doing pop-ups for brick and mortar D2C experiences. Everyone's kind of doing their own things. There's no one universal playbook anymore for D2C, and that's been really cool that we're kind of at a more mature phase of this market.
There's started to be a realization as a manufacturer brand that you could have a direct relationship with the end consumer. You know, for a long, long time, if you were a CPG company, there was no way to have a direct relationship with your consumer. You're really relying on your wholesale partners. So as e-commerce started to become a thing and CRM technology evolved, suddenly it was possible for these brands to have that end consumer. And that's incredibly valuable. I think the growth in e-commerce has been largely a data play and a bit of a marketing efficiency play. The opening of your own stores is a bit more of controlling the total brand experience. So if you've got a very great website, you've got all sort of other social media properties, and you have your own stores, then you're really much more in control of your destiny.
It's hard to say how successful a D2C brand is going to be. It honestly depends on how hard they're willing to try. Consumers have, I believe, a higher expectation of the quality that they'll get from a brand because they're not likely discovering that brand through a retailer. So there's no kind of price sensitivity at play where maybe the typical brand that they tend to be loyal to is higher priced that week than another brand that they're open to trying and is just as competitive for them. It's also really expensive to be a D2C brand. Yes, you get to keep more of the profits because you don't have, a middleman, but at the same time, digital advertising has become so incredibly expensive. Logistics are especially expensive if you don't have the scalability that a massive brand has. So it's kind of 50-50. It's high risk, but it's also high reward. I haven't seen a ton of best practice traditional CPG brands going DTC just yet, which is interesting because at every conference we all attend, everybody talks about the importance of owning your own data and how a D2C play really allows you to do that and is kind of the only way to fully own your data. Twinings tea actually does allow consumers to buy their tea off their own website, as well as being able to buy or find them in physical stores. However, you don't even see a ton of marketing around the fact that they do that. We're starting to see traditional CPG brands dabbling more and crossing over into the D2C route. And I think it makes a lot of sense, just again, because of what we keep hearing about the importance of owning your own data. But for whatever reason, we're not seeing a lot of risk takers just yet. I am excited to see more though.
I guess it depends a little bit on what CPG categories, but if you're in the cereal business or the macaroni and cheese business, it's a little bit harder to know what that direct-to-consumer strategy really looks like. Most CPG companies, low price point, customers aren't accustomed to buying them kind of one at a time. So I think it's really a struggle. Most of the strategies there are to try to kind of get people into a loyalty program or, if you're a food manufacturer, recipes, you have that relationship, you're building out the data, but you're not so much shipping product to people.
So it's really interesting to me to see how brands are adapting in this model and adjusting their mix, where brands who in the past we've seen were 100% wholesale relationship, now they're seeking to have as much as a third or more of their sales coming from that direct to consumer set of channels. And again, whether it's digital or physical or both. And I tend to see the more successful ones we're hearing about in the news are the ones that are finding that ideal mix between all those different channels.